What's up, you mutts? It's another episode of the Kevin Clancy Show. Today we got Josh Potter on from Your Mom's House, now out on his own. He's been with Tom Segura for the past few years. One of my favorite, just normal fucking comics in the world. We talk all about the Be Normal movement. We'll get into a couple 1 Minute Man type topics, but I just wrapped up reading a GQ article with Johnny KNoxville as Jackass 4 is coming. Release date in, I believe, October. And for me, Jackass 4 has to be maybe the most anticipated movie of a lifetime. That is going to be the final chapter for Jackass and put like a bookend period stop on what I think is maybe the most influential movement, group of guys, type of entertainment, just the most influential thing of a generation, of like my generation. The Jackass guys are a little bit of absolutely everything that pretty much dominates entertainment and the world now. It was the first kind of it's not the first reality TV, that's Real World and Road Rules and all that shit, but the first reality TV in the sense of like we're doing whatever the audience, whatever gets the audience, whatever gets the eyeballs, whatever entertains, and we will do anything and everything to get that footage and get that entertainment and ultimately lead to the fame and fortune. Like it eventually becomes something like, Kim Kardashian will put her sex tape out there, or You'll live, you put all of your private moments up on social media and whatever to get those eyeballs now. And those they were the first guys doing it, and they just took it in a very like violent and comedic turn. And if you're my age, I would say I'm 36 now. I would say probably between 36 and like, how old are you, Nick?
27.
27, so you definitely know Jackass, right?
Oh yeah.
Like what's like the age you think it cuts off? Like would like a 22-year-old know Jackass right now?
I think right around there.
Probably, right? And you might know it because you take the time to seek it out. But if you just like lived your life and didn't come across it,
we used to film
do
Jackass
it,
stuff,
right?
And that's like,
that's the thing. Like it's not only the entertainment factor, it's everybody went through a phase, or not a phase, because for someone like myself, it's like extremely short-lived, where you try like one thing. You want to do like one Jackass stunt, and then you realize that the disclaimer at the beginning, don't try any of this shit at home, was dead fucking serious. And it really molded and shaped an entire generation of shameless, but in a good way. You ordinarily, like when these shameless, vapid reality stars, this was shameless, but in an endearing way, and in a way that was like they were sacrificing for the audience, for the viewer, for the rush. And so it was a shameless in a good way. That level, and I really believe that those guys, and particularly Knoxville, who was the focus of this GQ article, is one of the greatest ever at their craft. In my mind, being like a stuntman, and so there's like stuntmen like Evel Knievel, and then there's Jackass, which I think is like being a stuntman mixed with being a comedian. Steve-O has tried his hand at like stand-up comedy. We've had him on KFC Radio before to promote like some of his stand-up work, and it's not like great like Dave Chappelle stand-up, of course not. It's just him kind of storytelling on stage and reliving some of his craziest moments. But the point being that they have the Evel Knievel stuntman gene mixed with the comedy gene, where they're like, we're doing this to make people laugh. We're doing this to make people gasp. I'm not going for laughs. I'm going for gasps. But they also want that entertainment factor, that comedy factor. And I think it's like being a professional athlete. Like, I think you have to have the goods. You have to have the talent. You have to be a little bit crazy. It's almost like being a comic and an actor mixed with being like a boxer. So you have to have like a screw loose and be willing to like put your life on the line, like an MMA fighter or a boxer. You have to also have the actual like athleticism in a weird way. Like in this article, they explain that Knoxville's super uncoordinated. He's not athletic, but he is very flexible. Said he could put his legs over his head. He's very pliable and durable. So, like, you might be crazy and want to fuck around in a shopping cart, jump off of this building, blow this up, ride this bull, fight this animal, whatever. But you know, your bones are gonna break, your limbs are gonna tear, and Knoxville is just like the most durable motherfucker on the planet. So he has like the body for it, the mind for it, the sense of humor for it, the like, in a weird way, the maturity for it. Like, while you watch Steve-O go off the rails with drugs, unfortunately Ryan Dunn dies. Bam Margera's, Bam Margera got kicked off the set of Jackass 4 because Knoxville said you either go to rehab or you're off the project, and he wouldn't go to rehab. So, and then there's Knoxville, who I'm sure has dabbled with substances his whole life. In the article, he tells a story of this story he told sounds like a fucking fever dream. Sounds like something that didn't even really happen. It was him, Hunter S. Thompson, Jude Law, and Sienna Miller were in a hotel room together in New Orleans, hanging out, reading Hunter S. Thompson's work, which is like, what? I'm sure they were throwing keys in a bowl. Everybody was fucking everybody, hanging out, doing whatever. Hunter S. Thompson throws him a bottle of pills. Johnny Knoxville opens it up, throws a few back, and starts chomping on him and goes, Vicodin. And Hunter S. Thompson was like impressed with him that he knew the taste of Vicodin. So yes, I'm sure Knoxville has dabbled in every substance under the sun for fun, out of necessity, out of addiction, whatever. But he's never like lost his mind. He's never lost his way. In that article, he says after that Hunter S. Thompson thing, he ended up getting a divorce from his first wife, and then he kind of turned over a new leaf and lived like a respectable human for his new wife and his 2 kids. So, I'm sure he's had his instances, but for the most part, when the other guys were either full-blown addicts, in and out of rehab, or worse, he's been like, the dad of the bunch, like the star, the captain, the most hardcore, but also the one who was like, the rock that they could rely upon, which I really genuinely believe that. I think he's like the LeBron of Jackass, the LeBron of stunts and reality TV and internet exposure and all that shit. I mean, they're on that early tip. Maybe not Knoxville, but the rest of those guys doing CKY, Can't Kill Yourself, when it was just shopping carts and like smashing pumpkins over each other's heads and all the shit that it was more like just like teenage mischief. Like, that was, just your own camcorder, nowhere to even upload it. Like, I don't even know what they were doing with it. Hopefully putting on like some cable local access TV. I don't know. They were ready to rock when the movie industry started to pick up on that, and TV industry. They're ready to rock when the internet came about, and he just had like the stars aligned for that dude to be the greatest of all time. The same way that the best football player, basketball player, baseball player, where it was like, yeah, that guy's arrived. He's the Babe Ruth of this shit, and it's, for me, and I think anyone my age, down to, like we said, probably around 22, they are some of the most probably universally agreed upon. Like, I don't know a single guy in my circle that didn't like Jackass, that didn't have Wild Boys like circled on their Sunday night lineup. Like, Jackass and Wild Boys together was like, me and my buddies would, there's only 2 things in my entire life that my friends would congregate for and watch appointment TV that wasn't sports, and it was the Chappelle Show and Jackass and Wild Boys. That was like the only shit that was like, we gotta watch it all together and like stop what you're doing, appointment TV, because you gotta see the next stunt, you gotta see what crazy shit they were doing next. And then the movies just, exploded and became, mega blockbuster hits. And for Jackass 4 to finally come, to me, that's like a band having a reunion, or the sequel to the long-awaited movie coming out, or it's Dr. Dre dropping Detox. It's whatever grand final event you want to put on it. Jackass 4 is way up there on the list for me. And Knoxville said he had 40 to 50 pages of stunts that he just wrote over the years. He would email himself, Jackass 4, send it. The same way I do that shit with like blogs where I'm like, here's, a blog idea. All right, just last week we did the Die Hard with a Vengeance, the 4 gallons in a 5 gallon, 3 gallon jug challenge. That was one of the first things, like back in like 2009. I remember writing a note for myself, emailing myself, maybe at that point even like using my iPhone, saying like, work a Die Hard 4 gallons reference into a blog, like that, make that the focal of a blog, the focal point of a blog, or a punchline of a joke. And like he does that kind of shit, just like texting himself, but with, do a magic trick for a bull. Like just wacky, wild shit that I can't believe they can still come up with enough skits, enough pranks, enough stunts that they still are like fresh, and there's enough of them to do it. But Jackass 4 for this generation to me is going to be the greatest culmination, and the fact that they all did it, and with aside from Ryan Dunn, but obviously that was outside the scope of doing Jackass. Never any deaths, never any paralysis. A zillion concussions, and I do believe it will ultimately one day be a little bit tragic when you see some of these guys, how they age, and hope to God they don't check out early, but I'm sure it's going to take its toll, and there's going to be some damage done. But like the fact that, I'm telling you, they're the greatest of all time. The only way to explain it, that's not just sheer luck. These guys were put on this earth to entertain, put their body in harm's way, take a beating, and somehow keep on cooking. They're all still skinny. They're all still in shape. They're muscular. They're pliable. They're damaged. They're injured. They just keep on fucking going though, and do it all with like enough charm and wit and good looks and humor. To me, it's the absolute full package that bridged the generation of like old school entertainment with new school entertainment. It used to be like, be funny on camera and do like a sitcom or do like a rom-com or a family comedy or whatever. And these guys were like, how about we like smash each other in the face with fluorescent lights? How about we, smash each other in the balls? How about we have guys that'll highlight oranges at us? How about we, get stomped on by bulls and eaten by alligators and shit that was just like, we are taking it the fuck up. So I almost feel like the world owes those guys like a debt of gratitude. Like, and I'm sure they all made wild amounts of money, and they do it for the rush and the adrenaline and all that, and like the approval of the fans and the love of the fans is probably why they do it. But goddamn, I hope those guys. I hope there was more money in that than ever. I hope like they deserve every fucking penny. Hearing some of the business stuff behind it, when we had Steve-O on, he said they were making like no money in the beginning. Like the actual Jackass, the TV show, it only had 3 seasons. It's only 24 episodes. It was like 3 8-episode seasons, which is crazy to me because it feels like so iconic and such like a piece of like my growing up. It's only 3 seasons. I would have, it feels like 10. But they were making like, I think literally $0 at first, and then like a couple hundred or like $1,000 an episode, when it should have been like millions. And then the movies, they made their cash for sure, but I don't think there's enough money or compensation in the world for some of the shit they went through. Johnny KNoxville used a catheter for 2 straight years. Twice a day, you'd have to insert and take out a catheter for 2 fucking years. Because he tried to do a backflip on a motorcycle when he had never ridden a motorcycle, period. He didn't know how to ride a motorcycle. He was like, but I can do a backflip. And the handlebar smashed his dick so bad, it broke like his urethra and his bladder and shit. Needed a catheter for 2 years. I mean, there's not enough money, fame, glory, whatever, to have a broken dick for a couple years. And like the fact that, like, so Jackass ended because there was Joe Lieberman was like a congressman at the time, and he had problems with the Jackass. People were writing letters and complaining about it, and mothers didn't like it, so Joe Lieberman cracked down. So they had OSHA come on the set of the show, the Office for Workplace Safety, whatever. And they were eating the ingredients of an omelet and then puking them into a pan and cooking it. and OSHA said that it needed to be safe temperatures, that they needed to cook the eggs and all the temperatures to a safe, all the ingredients to a safe temperature so that it would be safe. And Knoxville was like, all right, I'm fucking out of here, guys. I'm puking up the ingredients. It doesn't matter if it's not cooked properly, you assholes. So, like, the things that ended up getting in the way of it, and the way that they, like, you know, people tried to stop them, and yet here they are. I mean, it was, you know, I guess it's all, when it's all said and done, probably for them, like 30 years in the making. For us as fans, viewers, it was early 2000s, so like 20 plus years. Jackass 4. And I'm happy to know that it's like done and in the books, and they're now promoting it and it's coming out, because I would have bet, like, if you told me, all right, Jackass 4 is happening and they're about to start filming, I would be like, these guys are 50 now. Like, someone's gonna get hurt, someone's gonna die, and they didn't. They got through it, and like, they survived. So Jackass 4 will be the final end. They said, like, Knoxville was like, it's done. We've always said, like, in the past, it's done, but this time he's like, I cannot suffer another concussion. So like, it's a wrap. And to me, it's like the ultimate run. So it's just kind of an ode to CKY and Knoxville and Jackass, Steve-O, Bam Margera, Pontius, Wee Man, Preston, you know, Ryan Dunn, all those guys. It's, you know, when I think that other generations grow up being like, man, for me it was like Johnny Carson, and for me I grew up loving Richard Pryor, and then Eddie Murphy, and then there was the era of kind of like the big blockbuster movie stars and the sitcoms, the Seinfelds and the Friends and shit like that. But if you ask me, it's like, you know, Chappelle on the comedy side. But if you ask me what entertainment I found to be the most, if you had to define my generation's entertainment, our humor, it's them. It's the reality mixed with the violence, mixed with the shamelessness, mixed with the like raw footage. So the end of an era coming in October, and you should go read the article. It's awesome. Like, some of the stories he tells, and like the way he lives his life, like, all, you know, obviously the ultimate idiot. I think that's the other thing too, is like kind of what we do here is, you know, we're like the biggest fucking morons, but also, you know, we know our shit, we know our craft, we know what we're doing. They do that just with, you know, happens to be putting your life on the line. But I think the best thing you can be is the capable idiot, the like educated idiot, the idiot, I guess the idiot savant is what they call it, right? Where, you know, you're good at what you do, but the rest of you is just a fucking absolute moron. And I think the parallel between what we do as bloggers, they lead off the GQ article talking about, you know, for him, it's like waking up on the floor blacked out to people being like, oh, Knoxville, wake up, wake up, wake up. And he's like, did we get the footage? And it's like, oh, something terrible happened? Good. Like, awesome. You know, that's theirs is more physical, whereas I think ours as a blogger, a podcaster, internet influencer, radio host, whatever, when shit goes wrong in your life, or when something drastically bad or scary or unique, embarrassing, whatever happens, you're like, fuck yeah. Now I get to share that. Now I get to craft a story around that, write a blog around it, do a segment, a podcast around it. So there's something to be said for the jobs in this world where when shit goes bad, when everything goes south, there's a small part of you that's pumped about it. And I referenced this with the Josh Potter interview with comedy for sure, when, you know, Josh Potter suffered what I think has to be the most embarrassing moment I can imagine. And, you know, rather than just being mortified and stewing in it and being like, I'm going to think about this in the shower every day for the next 20 years when you're just a regular person with a regular-ass job, when you do something like, whether it's crazy shit like Jackass or just telling jokes into a mic like this, when you can turn negatives into a positive, when the Mets losing fucking 25 years in a row results in, like, good business for me, when something horribly embarrassing happens and I'm like, well, this is going to make people laugh on the blog, it's a cheat code for life. It almost becomes dangerous where you're like, oh, I hope something goes wrong today so that I can do my podcast. That's probably not a fucking healthy way to live. But what is healthy is when shit goes south and it's like, well, rather than just, you know, letting this consume me and fester, I'm going to spin this and tell this tale and share this and people are going to fucking love it. And all of a sudden, negative becomes a positive. It's actually, it's therapeutic. It's like, it's a good way to live. So anyway, I guess there's some parallels between what we do and what they do on a very, very, infinitesimal level. But the group of a generation, it's almost like the Rat Pack for the fucked up internet post-2000s generation. So Steve-O's the Dean Martin, Knoxville's the Sinatra. You got like the fringe members, but the Whack Pack. They're the Whack Pack of the Rat Pack. So shout out to them, and I'm sure they'll all need some therapy and some mental health help. In the article, Knoxville says, I've talked to a therapist before, but we've never actually broached the topic of why I feel the need to do stunts and to do this risky shit. Because he's like, I know I got to address it, but like not fucking now because I don't have time for that. So if he does, when he's ready, Johnny Knoxville can go to betterhelp.com, BetterHelp.com. It's an online therapy service that offers everything from video, telephone, and even text. So if you don't want to meet in person, you don't want to go face-to-face, you don't want to have to schedule the appointment and travel anywhere and wait in the waiting room and sit in some weird, strange room where they put the little sound machines on. They do that. It's all quiet. You sit on the couch and the white noise is on. It's like, what's happening right here? I'd rather just get it immediately, hop on a FaceTime, maybe do a phone call, maybe even text them and just be like, hey, I just need someone to talk to right now. Here's what's going on. It's much more affordable. It's much faster. You can get booked in under 48 hours. And especially as we wrap up May here, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, if you're fucking a maniac like Knoxville or you're just a regular person who needs to do a little mental health maintenance, think about it like when you go to the gym. You don't want to wait until you're completely fat and out of shape and like an absolute wreck. You want to do some maintenance and keep up with it. So even if you're doing all right, you could always be doing a little bit better. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. If you go to betterhelp.com/Clancy, you get 10% off your first month of help. So betterhelp.com/Clancy, 10% off your therapy help today. Psychology behind all that is absolutely fascinating. I am also fascinated in the psychology behind the Brooks Koepka Bryson DeChambeau rivalry. It's a sports rivalry, but it's bigger than that. It feels like a life rivalry. These two guys represent like the yin and the yang of this world, the opposite ends of the spectrum. You got Brooks who at least plays the character of laid back, cool guy, jock, who's like against the movement of golf, and then you got Bryson who's like, he feels like the silver spoon, spoiled kid who takes it very seriously. And equal, they're both good. I mean, Brooks obviously has way more majors, 4 to Bryson's 1. But they're both like, top of the top of the top. Bryson with the longest drive in the game, an absolute scientist with how he manages his game. Brooks kind of gives you the perception that he rolls out of bed and just plays golf and doesn't really care for any of the etiquette and the tradition. But all of it to me is fascinating. And this latest run-in they had together where the golf network, this scrapped video that never made it to air, got leaked on the internet. Bryson DeChambeau walks by, interrupts Brooks's interview, and Brooks is totally flustered. He's like cursing under his breath. And it just continues this rivalry that I think people are so fixated and fascinated on because, like I said, it feels like a macro. It's like a microcosm for the bigger picture, for like what it's like, almost like blue collar versus white collar, rich versus poor, underdog versus the spoiled kid, which is not, by the way. Both of these guys are elite golfers. The fact that we portray Brooks Koepka as like some sort of like they pulled him off the docks working at the factory and he's like Mark Wahlberg in Invincible. He just happens to be a great golfer. Like, no, he acts like he doesn't care about golf. It's his entire career. It's his life's work. He's the elite of elites. You don't just like stumble upon that. Maybe he doesn't care for, the dress codes and some of the traditions and etiquette, but for the most part he does. Because when times are going good and he's winning majors, he's like, I don't fucking care about any of these guys or any of these things that don't matter. But, when he loses to Phil on 18 in the PGA Championship and he doesn't like that there was mobs of fans bothering him, he starts complaining. And he should. He doesn't have to keep up this perception that he's like, he doesn't like golf or doesn't care about it. Like, you do, man. It's okay. For the most part, I get it. When he makes his Part of My Take appearances, he seems like he's a normal dude. The be normal eye test. Brooks Koepka passes it. Bryson DeChambeau doesn't. But also, I'm not watching this for when people say, like, Brooks is a great guy. I'd love to hang out with him in real life. I want to get a beer with him. That's not what I'm here for. If these two guys are in front of me, I'm like, yeah, Brooks, let's go hang out. Let's go watch the game. Let's go sit on a bar stool. Bryson, no thanks. But when I'm watching golf as a fan, as a viewer here, I want the Bryson DeChambeau heel. And that's why they're really the perfect complement for each other. They're like the foil. Like, Bryson's the perfect foil to Brooks in my mind. And I guess you can't have one without the other. You need, like, the kind of the hero, and he's a little bit the villain. You need the face and the heel. But to me, the heel has always been more interesting. I think I've always felt that way, watching wrestling, even watching the movies sometimes. I'm not like the contrarian who, like, roots for the bad guy. But as much as I loved, like, Stone Cold and The Rock, I always acknowledged that, like, you needed a Triple H. You needed a Kurt Angle. You needed the heel who was either, like, the bad guy or the annoying guy. Like, the badass, like, holy shit, like, you're scared of this guy and he's an asshole. Or the, like, oh, this fucking guy gets under my skin because he's such an annoying dork. And this is a real-life version of that. I think to some extent Bryson hams it up. I think he has more self-awareness than people realize. But I think what makes it so beautiful is that Bryson, for the most part, is being himself. It's a little bit trumped up. He leans into it, certainly on social media, just like the rest of us all do. Everything on social media is heightened, whether you're doing it professionally or just personally. So I think he's got enough self-awareness. But for the most part, he really does, want to study the effect of the wind on the ball and the blades of grass. He really believes that the ant hole will affect his play. He, when somebody calls him Brooks, he kicks him off the driving range. Like, you can't buy that. You can't get that at Wawa. There's certain behavior, whether it's villain, trolling, heel turn, whatever. It's so rare. Because when you get to that level, most of the time, these guys are heroes. Most of the time, these guys are the best. They're the coolest. They get the girl. They get the money. They get the championships, the money, all of that shit. Their whole lives, they've been, the best in their league, the best at their age, in their school, and then eventually go to the pros. And maybe you're not, the absolute best. It's like there's LeBron. But, Dame Lillard is just as much of a hero to all these kids out there. And you always kind of play even if you're not the actual best, you're within the top 1%. And there's very few people who ever end up being the bad guy because you're adored and beloved and idolized. But Bryson, because of the way he goes about it, and the way he looks, and his name, Bryson DeChambeau, huge part of Bryson DeChambeau is his name. It's like the Elon Musk effect. If Elon Musk's name is like John Steinberg, I don't think he has the same clout. But Elon Musk is this, like, perfect name that feels like it was scripted. Bryson DeChambeau, if you're trying to make an asshole country club cake eater snob, it's him. Bryson DeChambeau on the golf course with the Kangol hat, like, on forward, and, like, he looks like it's funny because he's a nerd, but he's also a meathead, so it's like this paradox that's unlikable all around, and he just looks like he's a social misfit, and he kind of is. It's perfect. In all of my years of watching, like, sports rivalries, this, like, so-called blue-collar jock, which, again, he's really not. Like, if you take Brooks Koepka and all the other athletes of the world, he's the dork. If all of his buddies are, like, football players and basketball players, and they're, like, rough and tough and cool and swaggy, he's the loser, If you put him in a room with, like, Brady and, like, Steph Curry and Bryce Harper and, like, those guys, it's like, oh, yeah, like, Brooks, like, respect your game and you win, but like he's not the cool guy of the bunch. He's still the golfer. Within the golf world, he's the man. It's like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the no nose, the Saigon whore. What is that? What dirty work? I don't remember. Anyway, Brooks Koepka is only cool within this when you compare him to Bryson DeChambeau, and that's why it's perfect. The world of golf needed someone who's looking like cool, and you need the villain who takes that golf persona to the next level. And I know people say like, oh, I knew KFC was gonna have this take that he's defending Bryson, and it's not in an attempt to be contrarian. It's not a knock on Brooks. I actually do personally think if in real life, like I said, he's the more personable and likable guy. But I think it's just a healthy respect for a good villain, for a good heel. That is so hard to come by. The world is filled with heroes. What the world doesn't have are the true type of villain who evoke so much hatred or like a visceral reaction. Like we've heard all the feel-good stories. Everybody's got the great, tale of how they made it. They worked hard, 1 in a million genetics. They've got the pretty wife, the cute kids, the bazillion-dollar mansion. What I want to hear about is the asshole. The guy who, his peers fucking hate him, and the fans don't know what to do with him. And, the guy who's like, we fucking hate you, and he's like, oh, yeah, watch this. He's got the longest drive in the game. He breaks the rules. Or not breaks the rules, but he breaks the mold, does things different and weird, and somehow still wins. That is just a better story to me. The guy saying, I don't even like golf. It's corny. I don't believe it. It's kind of cliche in a sense to be like I don't even care about these things. Like Bryson's like, I do care. I care about it so much. I care about it more than my fucking life as I know it. And the game that you guys struggle so hard to crack when you're trying to get out there and break, 140. And I've studied every inch of this game. And I got a short game. I got long game. And he's not afraid to admit it. And he's like, I am who I am. He does admit that he wants to be loved. Like he's a flawed kind of, again, I don't want to use the word villain, but he's like this, it's like an anti-hero because he's made it and people root for him, but they hate him. That to me is so much more of an intriguing story. So, I mean, there's the Brady and Manning. There's like the in pop culture it was Shooter versus Happy Gilmore, and to me the best example was The Rock and Kurt Angle. Brooks Koepka's The Rock. He's the face. He's the guy that everybody loves. He's cool. And then there's Kurt Angle, who at the time you were like, the music and the whole personality and everything about Kurt Angle like you hated. But it was so unbelievably scripted, and you needed that to bring out like the coolness of The Rock. That's why Brooks versus Bryson is one for the record book. So I do give Bryson the W on this round. I think that Brooks looks flustered. I think Brooks didn't have a comeback for Bryson's talking shit, or if he was just walking by wearing spikes. That's another thing. These golf fans who are like, Bryson's wearing metal spikes, what an asshole. I don't hear you complaining when Tiger Woods does it. Because he notoriously, famously wears metal spikes too. Yeah, it makes a loud noise and it tears up the course and people don't like it and it's antiquated. But like, what golf fans don't like is shit like the reason why you think Brooks is cool is because he doesn't give a shit about the dress codes and the traditions and the etiquette. But then you're all gonna turn around and get up in arms about the metal spikes. You're all Bryson. You love Brooks, but none of you are Brooks. The reason why foreplay is so successful is because they talk the talk and walk the walk about being average guys golfing who don't care about, what your shirt looks like, what your game looks like, what you wear, how you walk, how you whatever. It's all about just like playing golf and like drinking with the boys. But everyone else in the golf world is upset when they break the unwritten rules or when they violate some sort of old school tradition. And it's like, so what you all love about Brooks, none of you actually, you don't live that. You're all Brysons. You're all worried about like the little things. So I don't know what that says about the world of golf, but it's an interesting, it's a hypocritical thing to be, you know, we hate Bryson, but deep down you're worried about his metal spikes. You're all being Bryson's. But one of the best rivalries out there. I hope there's like 10,000 more rounds. Ultimately, until Bryson catches up on some of those majors, it's going to be tough to continue to like hold him in the same regard. But as long as he's in Brooks Koepka's kitchen, the way he is, like if every time I just walk by, you can't talk. Like that was almost like when a pretty girl walks by and a guy's like, "What? Oh, I lost my train of thought." Like what? Like Bryson DeChambeau has that effect on Brooks Koepka, where it's like you can't even see me, you can't even be near me without, you know, completely wilting and falling apart. What we need is some sort of showdown, final pairing one day, you know, 1 and 2, going into the final day of a Masters or any other major, or something to happen at the Ryder Cup or a skins game, some sort of challenge like Phil and Tiger. What we need is a true Bryson versus Brooks on the golf course. Now that this is all on this level, now that this rivalry has been brought to the forefront, we need it to play out on the golf course. And I think I'm going to be Team Bryson. I know people think that I do that shit on purpose, but it's just a healthy dose of respect for a good, real heel, because they are hard to come by. The opposite of a heel, Josh Potter. Great dude, great comic, blind as a bat and can't come. That's the credits. Like when he gets introduced, you should be, yeah, welcome to the stage, Josh Potter. He's blind and he doesn't know how to come. Straight up, he really like cum doesn't come out of his dick. It's wild. It's a wild ass fucking story. He has one of the most funny and embarrassing stories that I've ever heard happen to somebody at the end of this interview. But we talk about the Be Normal movement that I've been preaching for years, all about how that applies to life and your professional life, your social life, your romantic life, and how to get by and how to kind of snake your way through this life. And it's brought to you by Manscaped. Now, one thing you can do in the snake it till you make it lifestyle is always look the part. You might not have the goods, you might not be smart enough, you're not talented enough, but you can always look your best, and that involves making sure everything is trim and in its proper place, and making sure your hygiene's on point. So you show up looking like an overgrown, hairy chia pet. Nobody's going to want to fuck you. No one's going to want to hire you. You don't look good. You don't feel good. You don't smell good. You're not going anywhere in life. But you get out the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the trimmer from Manscaped that has nick-proof technology. It's waterproof. It's got the flashlight so you can see what you're doing. You keep everything trimmed on your chest, on your balls, on your dick, on your body, and that way you at least look like you're put together. You might be a complete disaster in real life, but you go on that date, you get behind closed doors, everything's smooth, everything looks good, smells good. You've tricked some people into thinking that you're something you're not, and that's what Manscaped can do for you. It can help you play the part. So go to manscaped.com, use the code Clancy, get 20% off plus free shipping. And do me a favor, this is something you need to do. This is a necessity. It's a hygiene thing. And Manscaped has been good to us for a long time on all my shows, but I particularly want you to use the Clancy promo code. So do that for me, and you can get the lawnmower trimmer. You can get the different creams and serums and boxers and DOP kits and everything you need for the bathroom to look and feel and be smooth. Go to manscaped.com. Promo code Clancy. Your balls will thank you.
Yo, brother.
What up, dude?
Look at this fucking guy. Let me press. Or am I recording? Or did you record?
You're recording it.
Oh, okay. Huh? Yeah, he's been. Look at this fucking guy out in like the Rose Garden or some shit.
Oh, it's my patio, dog. I'm not allowed to smoke cigarettes on it anymore.
Oh yeah, what? Like the landlord slapped him on the wrist, said no mas?
Yeah, after 3 years, they put up these fucking signs, and he's like pissy about it and shit. Dude,
I got no sympathy, because if this is your fucking
barbecue.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's what living.
You know what? Not really. It's filled with Red Bull cans with cigarette butts in them. I'll show you. Dude. Look at that.
I mean, it's funny to think this is like it looks beautiful, but you're just your grill is just a de facto recycling bin. I love it.
I always say, like, if they catch me with it, I'll just be like, I'm saving it when they come around.
This is such a beautiful setup, but you're just an absolute dirtbag. You know, it's
That's
like
me in LA, baby.
yeah,
Come on
yeah.
out
You
here, dude.
you are such an imposter living the West Coast life. What are you got to get out of there. What are you doing in LA? Fuck
Dude,
this.
I
Come
love it
back
now.
home
Dude,
where
I'm
you
starting
belong.
to embrace it, baby. It's coming down to my level. It's becoming the East Coast, dude.
Oh,
Like
that's
all
true.
all the ritzy people are like sketched out right now. They're all bailing. And so it's just kind of like grimy and shit. So I'm kind of digging it now. I'm gonna lean in.
Like Bane. You're Bane and Batman.
Yeah.
You're like, I was born in this. Like, you
Yeah,
guys are freaked
exactly.
out. Oh, homeless people and like unemployment? What the fuck ever, man. This is where I
Yeah,
thrive.
I'm from Buffalo. We love unemployment. That's our biggest export. So
Man, that's a funny thought. I mean, I know that a
where's
lot of
fights at? I got this guy, by the way. I wanted to show him.
Oh, it's a beautiful dude.
got that guy.
We're doing a few more subtitles coming up soon with just the most ridiculous ones we can find. Some of them are absurd when you really start keeping your eye on them.
Oh, for sure. Just those like just describing what's going on, you know.
Yeah, there was one that said like sobs incoherently, and I was like, we got to get that one, fights. That's the one right there.
I forget what comedian it was. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead. There's a little delay. I'm trying to catch up with it here.
I forget. There was a comedian that used to write closed captioning for just like random shit on television all the time.
I mean,
like,
you really get creative with it, and some of these scenes out here, you know.
He would get creative with it when it came to describing the noises, for sure. You know, it would be like he would like use very colorful analogies. Let's just say.
Yeah, I can imagine some sex scenes out here and all that. Yep. Well, I love the thought though of LA getting. You know, it's kind of like The Purge or any of these things where the rich people all of a sudden are like, well, wait a second, this is not what I signed up for. And it's like, yeah, man, this is how the rest of like the vast majority of the world lives this way, you assholes.
Yeah, I mean, the homeless thing is extreme, I will say. I mean, it is gnarly. I mean, it's on a gnarly level. I'm sure it is to go to work for you every day, like in fucking Times Square and shit, you know? Mm-hmm. It's just gone back to like, you know, grime time. And so here I am, baby. That's perfect time for me to move here, I guess, you know? Grime time. Let's go.
Yeah, I love you in this rose garden patio wearing your Bills shirt. Loading up on your
it's gonna get nicer.
Ripping cigs.
Got my own merch here. It's only gonna get nicer.
Oh, dope! I love it.
Oh yeah, it's the Roach Bills logo.
The Roaches, amazing.
Yeah, it's only gonna get nicer though, dude. I'm hoping to get set up at a nicer place. It'll be wild out here, you know, because rent's going down and shit. So it's like, hey, baby, let's go.
This is the time to thrive, man. This is actually, I do actually kind of understand a little bit where, it's kind of like the reset button a little bit. And now, you know, some things are more affordable and the only people who are sticking around are like the real go-getters and the real like committed people. And so like, you got to go through it. It really is like a purge. It's seriously like Batman where dude burned down the city. Like Gotham kind of got too big and you burn it down and start over. And now, you know, the new era or the new like come up is going to be a totally different vibe and like a much better one.
Whatever rises out of the ashes from this whole thing. I mean, it's been it's like anything else. The era that was, you know, the LA comedy scene and at its peak, that was bound to like end. And instead of it just doing it slowly over a couple of years, it was immediate and abrupt because of the fact that, you know, COVID happened, and that goes for a lot of things, not just, you know, comedy, obviously. So it's weird, but now it's kind of like, you know, the other side of the coin is just as abrupt now. So it's like everything's opening back up again. You know, there's things to be had, and everyone wants to have fun now. So it's like the fucking world's our oyster, bro. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be a dope decade now, I think.
I do think there's a good chance for everybody to just like fuck each other and party and go after like your like from a career level, from a romance level, from a social level, professional, family, all that shit, travel. Like now's the time to just do the shit that you were putting off or like were took for granted or whatever. There's no more. I would hope. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like when all this started, we were very.
As an introverted person like you are, do you feel at all like I need to go to more concerts and shit like that now? Like, you aren't going to pass those opportunities up as much?
No, that's what I mean. Like, sometimes I feel like other people will do all that, you know? I still feel like, you know, I wasn't going to many ball games anyway. So when sports was gone, I was like, that doesn't really affect me, you know? So a lot of this shit, I often feel like I am, for my job and your job, all this observational humor, I feel like I am a spectator of life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching other people do the things, go to the places, date the people, travel to the, you know, whatever, and then I comment on it. But I often feel like I'm not the one to do it. I don't need to be the one like who actually does the experience. I want to like comment on the people who are doing it, which is probably a depressing, weird way to look at life. But I do feel that way. I feel like I'm just, and that's why I try to keep a little bit of distance between, like, if I were to kind of go like Portnoy, like Dave has become the people that we used to do commentary on, you know?
Right.
And I want to kind of maintain that, you know, yeah. And it's not like selling out, but it's like, I do think that keeping a little bit of staying grounded allows me to continue to talk about these things rather than become these things, you know?
Oh yeah, dude. And I told you before, off the air, like, I mean, you fucking consume everything too. So like, for you to keep that distance is probably very important. Otherwise you go down a fucking spiral on every topic. I mean, I can't even see, I'm the opposite in ways. Like, I feel like I have to experience something to speak on it. Mm-hmm. And so I like feel like not like a fraud or anything, but I'm not going to do enough like research just observationally from the, you know, the confines of my phone or whatever.
No, that makes sense.
To know enough about something to speak on it. So I usually like to like take something in personally.
I get that. I mean, my thing is, whether it was writing a blog, doing a podcast, now doing the 1 Minute Man videos, I feel like if you do like a smidge of research, as long as you know like one more thing than the average person, I think my approach is always like, I'm giving you the average guy take. If I were to experience all this and dive into it and read up on it, it wouldn't be the average guy's take. It would now be like the expert opinion. So I'm kind of like, hey, here's what, you know, when you're sitting on your couch, here's the deal. And I maybe looked up one or two things more. I really firmly believe in this world, whether you're doing content like us or whether you're just trying to talk at a happy hour or a cocktail party, if you know one sentence more than the average person, you become the expert in the room. They're like, oh, this guy knew a statistic, or this guy knows a guy, or whatever it is. If you just know one piece of information more than the average guy, you're the dude.
That's interesting. I never even thought about it that way. I mean, it's wild though to think like, this is probably lazy of me, but you mentioned it in terms of like content and stuff like that. When I'm like writing jokes, or like even when it's coming about, I'm trying to be topical somewhat on my podcast, and I almost hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I hate burning I feel, well, for a podcast, it's a little longer lasting, but like when it comes to like writing a joke or whatever, it's like by the time this joke is good, and by the time I'm like using it in a way that is monetarily beneficial to me, it's old if it's topical. Do you know what I mean? So I keep everything like my experiences, anecdotal. This happened to me. This happened, you know, like,
that's
and if I do make an observation, it's on a macro level as opposed to something, you know, or I'll take a piece of a topical story and have some larger point to make or something like that. But like, and honestly, it's a lazy thing. It's not a,
well,
like,
it is.
You churn shit out so quick with all the shit every day. Fucking boom, boom. I don't fucking know how you do it.
Yeah, but that's crazy. The thing. My shit is not like refined and like brilliant comedy. Like, a lot of times it's just like my observation or kind of like a quick little hacky joke or something that's just like, it's not a really like poignant, like, oh wow, like, you know, when you guys write a joke and you set up a premise and then there's like misdirection and then, you know, that's like real comedy. This is more just like, I hope to make you chuckle while I give you some information. Because you're right, by the amount of time it takes to refine your act, it almost can't be like
I just never like wanted to consume my brain power with topical things, and I never understood, like, when I'd see guys at open mics, like, sure, it's a joke writing muscle or whatever, but they'd be doing something and I'm like, by the time you're not an open micer anymore, this is going to be a useless part of your job. You need to compile 5 sick ass minutes so that what you can ascend out of this muck and mire that you're in right now.
That's interesting. So I guess like the only, you got to be like the cream of the crop to be able to rip like whatever's happening in the news like that day or that week or whatever, right?
Well, it's really like an accelerated learning curve thing. Like after you're doing it for a decade or whatever, you understand like this is how I write a joke.
Yeah.
And you can maybe pick things out a little bit better if you're keeping your brain up to speed on the topics and constantly doing it. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of people that write 5-10 new minutes and then they do it on television or something and it's up to date, like an SNL monologue or something.
Right.
Something like that. So like they'll work hard on that one thing, but that's not like going in their hour necessarily. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, so you're doing a spot at the comedy club or you're doing some crowd work, but if you're doing like a Netflix special, it's always going to be general evergreen type shit.
Yeah. I mean, you'd hope so, or at least that's my hope. I mean, some people, they do shit and you'll like, but you'll watch a fucking special from like 3 years ago and it's like this election, right? And you're like, which one was that again? You know what I mean? Like if you're not really paying attention.
Yeah, that's a great call. I mean, I never thought about that, but when I'm thinking about, my favorite specials, the Killing Them Softlies or the Tennessee Kid or whatever, it's all shit that you can pop in right now.
Yeah. I mean, even like prior and stuff, like those are like larger lessons or whatever, larger points being made in those jokes than even if he brings up something topical or even if something sounds dated or weird, like because of just that much time passing,
Man, that's an interesting. I'm always so the difference between what you and I do, what like internet content creators do and comedians, because we're kind of meeting in the middle where like we've always been doing the internet thing. You guys are kind of we did like primarily internet with some comedy, and you guys are doing comedy with a little bit of internet, and we're kind of like meeting in the middle. Whereas I think you guys have the huge advantage though, because to me, being a stand-up comic, having those comedy chops is the most valuable thing. I would say it's like pure athleticism, if you could be like a professional athlete. And then right there on the same level of comedy is like acting chops and singing. You know what I mean? There's like 4 things in my mind. It's like singing, acting, professional comedy, and professional sports. And
yeah, I mean, comedy can be a learned thing though, too. I mean, like you can come into it with, you could have, there's different spectrums. Like you could have minimal talent and extreme work ethic, and that lines up. And you could have extreme talent and shit work ethic, and that sometimes lines up. You know what I mean? So it's like a special mix oftentimes.
It truly is like sports. You can be the guy who's physically gifted and doesn't give a shit, or you can be the scrappy guy.
Right. And then you have an elite,
has no
athlete
talent, but like gets
Peyton
there.
Manning, who does the work and is elite.
Does both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I've always thought like, I mean, it would really be like my dream to do some sort of stand-up comedy, but it's too late.
It's not that it's
30,
too
you know
late.
what I mean? Like I feel like you guys started when you're like 12.
I started when I was 22. I mean, like, and I started in Buffalo, and I stayed in Buffalo until I was 31. So it was like I was doing the road and shit. But like, it's not New York, it's not LA. It's fucking just diligence. And I'm telling you, dude, like the thing that you would have to get over just simply is just like dealing with the bullshit of it. Like you would have to eat your dick for a period of time and keep going again. And you would just be like I'm not saying this as a negative thing, but you have a lot going on. So you have kids and shit. You have a sick job and shit. Like, and you got a lot of content you got to put out. So after a while, I could see you going like, "What? This isn't worth anything for me." You know what I mean? So like, I could maybe like be the host of a show at a club. I mean, so you'd get booked. I mean, you could fucking just start right now. You could Michael.
Well, that's what I think is interesting too. Yeah, exactly. Well, 2 things. One, I feel like the rest of the industry like hates your guts for that, right?
Oh, like, I fucking hate that shit. I'm like, go do fuck. Like, if they're a guy like that is going around and doing mics and shit, then I can go like, oh, okay, he's really like putting in the actual, like he wants to actually learn how to do this. The bookings are just a happenstance, and I can understand someone accepting those as a part of the learning process. But if you're not doing the mics and you're like, yeah, I'm selling out the Hartford Improv, like you have an hour of just straight fire already. You're going to go out and you're taking a weekend from a guy. There's only 52 a year at each of these clubs.
That's
and
fucked.
so I fucking hate that shit. But people, they don't think that's necessarily a glowing aspect about me to be such a bitter person about that. But
well,
it's
yeah,
not that
I mean,
I'm bitter.
it's not necessarily bitter. It's just like the reality of the situation. Like I feel like when we've done live podcasts, we'll sell out like Caroline's. We did the Wilbur, and I guess I've never thought about it as like I'm taking that building away for the night, but I'm also not getting up there and doing stand-up comedy. We're doing a live podcast where it's like,
no, but you're doing like a one night thing during the week probably or something, and it's like also you're bringing bodies to the comedy club during a night when they don't necessarily have it, so that's like an awesome thing to happen to the comedy club for you to do those kinds of things with them. So that's very awesome. But like for him to go like do be like I'm headlining the weekend of this, that's like a weekend that like a road comic would get or something like that. And the truth is, if you can sell a ticket, you get to do whatever the fuck you want. So I mean, like, that's.
But
that
so like, I mean, if one of those guys are doing stand up and it's shitty and it's hacky, that would piss me off. But like I think one night we did a weekend at the Wilbur, and it was KFC Ray, it was me, Dan, it was me, Big Cat, and Fights. Do you think, I never even thought that there might have been like comics being like fuck
no,
that.
No.
Do you think people were mad
about that? Because that's like a concert, dude. It's not, it's like a concert.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a different thing.
Yeah, it's a different thing. And the Wilbur is more of a theater. Like you have to be in a kind of an elite ticket seller to do that already, or at least in the upper echelon of it. Like that's kind of an accomplishment for a comic, is to get a couple shows at the Wilbur. That's like a big
I was
deal.
Like, so that's like a highlight of my life. Was to
that's sick, dude. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's big. And dude, like when I was on the road with Tom, we'd go to these theaters and we'd be like, who was just here or whatever. It's very rarely comics. It's usually bands or like gamers now. Gamers are booking theaters, which is insane. They're selling crazy amounts of tickets. And it's just like, if you can sell a ticket, that's all I learned through this whole fucking thing, is if you can sell a ticket, it's a bigger thing than anything. I don't have any television credits. I have nothing. I have 0 credits in Hollywood and show business, but you know, I'm selling a few tickets on the road.
Yeah,
so like, people
doesn't
are
matter. Nobody needs that anymore. Yeah,
exactly. So it's crazy that the people, like being out here for 3 years and watching people audition and chase all these random things that I never saw as mattering. Right. Because I just wanted to do stand up on the road. I was like, I thought I was just going to be an opener forever. I'm like, that's fine. Whatever, let's go. I'm doing shows. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
rather than trying to be like an extra on like what SVU or some shit, an extra in the background of a guy, you know, like what does that even do? I'm sure
talk show or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, I remember talking to DeStefano about it, and like, so he's hosting on True TV, and he was talking about how, you know, some people are like, why are you like wasting your time? You should only be doing like digital. You should only be on the internet and stand up. And then meanwhile, he's working with, you know, Sal Vulcano, who's making like $2 billion a year being on television. So
there's no reason you can't do both.
Certainly go both ways.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't do both. I'm saying he was selling, you know, I mean, if you can have as many irons in the fire as you can, go for it. I don't discourage that at all. That's a hustle right there. And I mean, he is doing the internet content and doing this at the same time somehow. And so many people should try to ascend to that, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I also think what I've learned again, that's what I mean. Like it's chasing it down just to do it is stupid. But if it's like you know, it's going to benefit you, or you make money, or you know, build up, you know, building blocks for your career, then I just feel like what I have learned, and again, I kind of like to keep my distance so that it's like I can still watch comedy and have my favorite comics, listen to their podcast, comment on it, but not like, I don't feel like I'm a contemporary or in it, you know. But what I feel like I've learned in the last few years of doing all these guys on my show is, as friendly as it is, it's also like the most kind of gossipy, backstabby, cutthroat sort
You're
of
in New
thing.
York, dog. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It probably is here in LA too, but I honestly am so separated from just from being from Buffalo. Like I'm kind of no one gossips with me about anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's odd for me to be like, I'm an outsider, but I opened for Tom Segura for the last 7 years. But I mean, like, he's one of my few friends that are like successful in this business. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, either my friends in this are in another tax bracket, or they are, you know, middling on the road. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
how did you get linked up with Tom?
I just worked with him in a club in Buffalo in like 2013. He was doing clubs, it wasn't really popping off quite yet, but it was like Netflix had just put out a special, starting to move some tickets here and there. Mm-hmm. And we did a weekend in Buffalo, and then he like DM'd me a couple weeks later. He's like, "You want to come to Orlando?" And I'd never even flown to do comedy before. I borrowed $300 from my mom to like buy the plane ticket and go to Orlando.
Yeah.
And then
and that night in Buffalo was just like it was
a whole weekend. It was 5 shows.
But like that is something where he picked you to open, or the club was like, here's a guy who's just on stage the same night as you, and you guys.
I had just gotten passed as a middle by the club. So like the way it works on road gigs is like if you're a big headliner at a club, and Tom wasn't quite yet a big headliner, so he wasn't like bringing people with him. So like he was at the level where they just assign you to somebody. And I was one of the people that would get assigned to gigs locally, or maybe they'd send me to like St. Louis or Philly or something. And this one I just happened to do with Tom. And then he was starting to sell tickets. So he just hit me up when he could bring someone to Orlando. He thought of me for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, I assume just because he thought I was good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's kind of what I thought. That's why I asked, is like, so you just
we didn't
like
have,
killed
like,
that night.
You were crazy hang. I mean, it was 5 shows. So I mean, like I did well on the weekend, but I mean, I was doing well around, I mean, there was nothing special about that weekend where it was like, this guy's
you did something.
We're like going to be bros now, and I'm going to work for him someday, and then I'm going to like have a whole life because of, you know what I'm saying? Like it was, I've made better friends with guys on weekends and heard never from them again. And I've had, people with less discourse, or people that are like, won't even let you sit in the green room or whatever, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was just a wild, lucky thing.
It does make sense to me though, is like, where's Tom originally from?
Well, he moved all over the place as a kid. He was born in Ohio and like Cincinnati, and lived there until he was like a small child. And then he went to Minnesota, I think, and then to Florida. And I think he grew up mostly in Florida.
Because I guess my point was like, whenever I interview somebody, I can tell if a guy is an East Coast guy, like instantly, and it's usually just because we like click and vibe, and because they're just like normal, they just kind of know the situation, and it's like, hey, we're talking over the Zoom, or we're talking, in your studio, and it's the first time ever, but we're just gonna be like friendly. It's just like, it's normal,
Yeah.
And maybe being from the Midwest or Ohio, bouncing around a little bit, it kind of has the same effect. But
he's like a military kid, like he moved around so much, so like everyone's like, man, Tom's really good at making, like Bert always says on the podcast, Tom, you're so good at making friends and stuff like that. It's because he moved. I'm sure it's because he moved around so much.
I had to keep making friends. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to keep making new friends. So he figured it out pretty quickly, and he lived in the Carolinas in college and shit. So like, he bounced around. So he was quick at making friends in new places. And he doesn't have necessarily an East Coast vibe or West Coast vibe. He's kind of malleable in that. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know he's a chameleon.
I could see like that weekend was, I don't think Tom was like, oh my God, Josh Potter, we have to have him. He's the next big thing. And I don't think you were like, oh man, I would love to fucking work for him. I think it was just like two normal dudes who were like, all right, this clicked. It worked. And that's, when we first talked, I guess it was more when I first started following you and just kind of picking up on your vibe. But then when we first did an interview, I just have the Be Normal test. And I was like, this dude passes the Be Normal test. I can talk with him, and I know it won't be awkward. I know it won't be like, I have to worry about what I say. It will be funny, but it won't be like we're putting on a performance. It's just like, I'm just, and that's such a low but high bar. Like that should be easy, and everybody should pass that test. The amount of people who fail that test is staggering, where I just want you to be fucking normal. And if you're funny, that's like some icing on the cake, but let's at least just like be able to talk and shoot the shit. And you kind of like, you were one of the guys. So I was like,
50+% of that shit.
Absolutely. That's like, and that's life,
half of comedy.
Yeah. It's comedy, it's business, it's sex. It's like, you can go on a date, and I could set you up with someone and be like, I know if Josh like sat down to dinner with this chick, it wouldn't be weird. He wouldn't like fuck it up. He wouldn't be a creep. It would just be, I don't know if you're going to fall in love with him, but it'll be normal,
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Dude, I can't tell you how much it's gotten me through so many things. I moved to LA. I had no job or whatever, and I had no experience. I worked in radio since I was like 15. There was no happening anymore. So I wasn't going to be able to work in radio. And I didn't know what to do. I went to a job fair and just sat at all these tables and didn't know what the fuck these jobs were or whatever. I got 3 offers. The one I accepted, I just shot this shit with the guy about the Lakers the entire time. And I don't know even half what I'm talking about. And I just am like, are you excited about LeBron or what? You know, like at the time it was, you know, that he just come here. And like, that was like all I had to do. And I got that job. And dude, I didn't know for 2 weeks what this job was. It took me through the whole first 2 weeks of training. And I was sitting in a room and we're in a training session and I go, oh, like, and it dawned on me in that moment. And I actually like audibly out loud went, oh, that's it.
Oh, I'm a salesperson. Okay. I thought I was like doing operations. Okay.
Dude, I was scared.
That is amazing.
It was like you had to know medical coding and shit. And I don't know any of that shit, dude, obviously. And it was like, I had to
but even that doesn't matter. This is what I've learned, man, is I kind of, my 2 things were be normal, like I explained, and then like snake it till you make it, where it's just like, you know, but what dude,
I just got through that 90-day probation period and then I fucking coasted. I was like, now they can't fire me. They have to really try hard to fire me. Like I have to really fuck up for them to fire me. So I just had to make that 90 days.
When you know the game, when you know those things, yes, exactly. And what I've learned is that the ultimate way to snake it is just to be normal, because you'll have like when I was an accountant, it was 2008, 2009, when the financial world was collapsing. And in the beginning, maybe every month or so, 2 months, there was rounds of layoffs. And I was a very bad employee. I did not do good work. And I made it through every rounds of layoff because I would go get a beer with the partner like every, you know, Thursday night. He was an Irishman who just liked to drink. And it was like, I'm not going to fire Kevin. He's like a drinking buddy of mine, you know? I used to actually have almost like a, what do they call that? Survivor's guilt, survivor's remorse. Where it was like, this guy is like, he's got kids at home and he got fired. He really wants to be an accountant. And here I am, like, I'm dicking around blogging on the side. And the only reason I make it still is because I'm a drinking buddy. But if you can find the way to be normal, you can find the way to snake it. And then you can kind of coast. It's not that hard.
Have some like, what's the word? Like, self-flagellation when you fuck up, you know what I mean? Like be humble about it. Be like, oh darn, I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? Like the people like respond to that too.
Somebody own up. Yeah. Right. The people who are like, oh man, it happened just here recently with Portnoy. This kid fucked up real bad. And Dave was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why did you do that? And he goes, I'm kind of a dumb kid. And Dave was like, all right then. Well, you know, what do I say to that? Like, okay, get back to work, man.
And if you get aggressive, you take it out of their hands. Defensive, they're only going to get more angry. You know what I mean? If you get more defensive about it. So
the lessons of life, dude, and it feels like it applies to like absolutely everything. Like I would be willing to guarantee if I asked Tom the question of like why'd you get down with Potter, it would be like 50% talented, 50% like I could tolerate him. We could hang out together in the green room. That's all that like matters, right?
Yeah, dude. It was like, I think it was like, I remember him being like talking about my jokes to me and like tagging them sometimes. Like he gave me one joke I still even have. I mean, I regret to say it's still in my act somewhere, but it's like a small little like word difference. And he like gave that to me the first day. And I was like, oh, wow. But that was beyond that, like hanging out and stuff like that. Yeah, just completely normal. I wasn't up his ass about this or that. And I don't even know that he had people up his ass, but also you see so many weirdos in these fucking green rooms and like, you know, we're all fucking on the spectrum somewhere. And it's like, I'm a weirdo too, but like in a different way. Like you said, chill, but like, you know, obviously I'm not normal, but like, I'm not like up your ass or a bother or anything.
Like that. Everyone's fucked up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody in this industry, especially any industry where you're putting out, you know, entertainment, you're fucked up, but you know when to like shut up or you know when to hide. You can hide your fuck up. It's the weirdos are the people who are fucked up and can't keep it at bay.
Yeah, I think a big thing for Tom too is that I am not on all the time, or maybe not ever. I mean, I'm just this, and then I go on stage and I still do this kind of, you know. But like, yeah, I'm not like chatting his ear off about nonsense or whatever. But yeah, I guarantee. I mean, I've said it too. Like, there's tons of guys I know that I would I would want to do a show with that is not that great at comedy, but is chill. Do you know what I mean? Like over some of these pills, even if you're the most talented person in the world, it's like, yeah, but he's a fucking nightmare to be around. It's like no one's gonna want to hang with you.
And especially, and if you're getting to the level with Tom, like where he was kind of building out like a stable of people and a studio. Like I remember Dave at times has told me, he's like, you're easy money. Like for me, like you go off, you do your thing, the money rolls in, there's no drama, there's no, and I call her daddy will make him, 10 million times the money I'm making, but it's a headache. You're in the New York Post, you're fighting. So it's like, I will always have that job security where it's like, he just stays over there and he's not.
Oh yeah. Also, I am so low maintenance. I may be the most low maintenance person that's ever existed in terms of like,
yep.
I don't care where I sleep. I don't care where you put me. I don't care where we eat. I don't give a shit. Whatever you want to do, I'm on board, and I'm going to be enthusiastic about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that
not
goes
overly enthusiastic,
the
but
longest
I'm not even
way
going to give you a peep. Yeah, exactly. So I think
the only like maintenance I need, it's like pay me. I need like the money to be right. But other than that, you want me to share a hotel room, you want to fly coach, you want to take a bus, you want to not pay for like what I don't even put in expenses at work, which for a company like mine is so stupid. It's like I could just have like I could get my phone bill paid, I could get my food, my travel, and I'm always just like, well, I don't know. I would need to pay for a cell phone if I'm a human who exists, so I need a cell phone. They shouldn't have to pay for that. Like why? But so I'm like a dream come true in that front with like that kind of shit. And I think that gives you job security. That gives you life security.
I'm sure it feels like partly yours too, like a piece of it, right? Like, I mean, like you don't, like it's almost like you grew up in it or whatever. So it's got to feel like the expense thing. You're like, let the kids fucking do all that shit. You know?
That definitely, I definitely feel like that level too, where it's like I'm almost taking money out of the company's pocket, and I'm part of the company, so it almost feels like
you're
circular. But it's like
it's coming back to you anyways, or something 100%. Like that. Yeah, circular or whatever.
100%.
I mean, I'm finding that out now as I am my own company at this point, and I'm learning. I gotta fucking do this LLCs and all this shit. It's fucking weird. I don't know if I should. I mean, like you gotta. It's just for me, to pay some people or whatever here and there, but even that's fucking a little bit of a sticky wicket for your boy over here, as far as papers go.
Oh, I can't even imagine. That's another thing, like where sometimes if anybody ever starts to be like, if they're frustrated at work at Barstool or whatever, I could do it on my own. I'm like, maybe you could, but you got to worry about, your distribution, your sales, your legal stuff, your liabilities, your all these things that get taken care of. So you were with your mom's house for what you said 7 years. You're opening for Tom and like
no, I was. I mean, I wasn't with your mom's house for that. I mean, I just opened for Tom for that long.
Right.
And he started the studio in 2018, and I mean, I guess I was like employee number 4. I mean, it was like him, Christina, Nadav, and then me.
Wow.
And then we hired out or whatever. And I was just helping out with like content ideas, and I had no like production background in terms of video or anything like that other than radio. I mean, so I could monitor the audio fine or whatever and fuck with the board, but like and process it or whatever. But, we hired post people and they do all that stuff. And then, I started doing more stuff on air, and then I started doing my podcast. And, after about 6 months or whatever, we just, we thought it would be beneficial for both of us actually if, we parted.
Yeah.
And they're moving down to Texas and all that shit. So it's like takes a bit off their plate as far as overhead goes and paying me and everything like that. It's a less of an, and they have to fly back and forth. They got a whole bunch of bullshit they got to deal with. And now I'm one less headache as far as scheduling. And now I can make a little bit more money if I'd like, or if I work hard enough. So, it balances out.
I think being out on your own, while, like I said, you gotta worry about some of the logistics, and it's probably a little bit daunting, a little bit more work.
You know what I did? I just paid 20% to this, 20% to that now. That's the way I deal with the logistics.
Yeah,
this guy does that. You
keep
that?
It simple. Yes. Yeah. I do the same. I mean, I give it some thought myself, because I feel like I don't know when it'll be, but looking at like Dan and PMT, especially Dan with Dave, they're going to be together for like the next like 7 years. And me and Feidelberg are kind of like the next thing down because the other guy's the Chicklets and Color Daddy. You're kind of like separate. As far as the original Barstool people, I feel like there's a chance where in the coming years, they're going to be like, we're going towards gambling. That's not like your bread and butter. So I could see a scenario where maybe I end up doing things on my own, like first, which would be scary as fuck. If all things go right, I would like to probably just get a paycheck forever. I like having the steady paycheck. What's going to be
me too, dude.
Right? I mean, that's like, I mean, that to me, there's some value in like, you can have a good month and a bad month and the money stays the same. And I think some people get in their mind like, well, when I had my good month, I should have been making more. And I
don't think that way.
No, I think like, the other way. I think, well, I had a bad month and I still got the money.
That's great thinking right there.
Yeah, that to me
I think
is
just in general, like I don't have to occupy my brain on the grind or the hustle and worry about it. I can just concentrate on content, and I'm gonna suck here or suck there, but hopefully I hit more balls than I fucking strike out at.
Yes. So, let me ask you a question. Do you gamble?
Yes.
Do you
only on sports though?
Is it like a casual or like you're a pretty consistent gambler?
Well, it's casual in the sense that like I bet grandma money, but I'm poor, so like that's why.
Yeah, but relatively speaking, it's like
I'm pretty
a big
diligent.
Like you might be betting small, but like, is it if you lose a bet, are you like I'm fucked, or is it just for fun?
No, I'm never. Yeah. That's the thing. I'm never fucked with it. Like I started with like $100, and then I like would build it up to like 1,000, and I'd cash out, and then I'd like, do it again.
Right.
Or try to do it again as much as I can. Or the most I'd lose is like $100 here. I would never put it all on one bet. It would just be like a streak of like, I'm such a baby about money and that I put into it.
But that's why I think those two things,
something to do every day.
I think that those two things go together, where it's like the people who are thinking, well, if I had a good year and I made more money than they expected, I should make all the money. I think are the same people who like to gamble because the highs are high for them. For me, like, the high of winning is nowhere close to the low of losing. And I think that applies to business where I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe, you know what, maybe I should have got paid a little bit more because I overperformed. But the year before when I underperformed and you guys still paid me, we're good. So to me, the gambling and like the self-worth in the work world, I think kind of those two like parallel each other where
for sure.
And maybe on some level, I think people should always know their worth. And if you think you can make more money and go out on your own, like, definitely pursue it. But I'm so used. I mean, I'm doing 15 years now with a paycheck. And
I'll tell you what, my friend, I have, I don't know my worth, but I have very, very low opinion of it. So you're looking at a guy who spent 15 years just sucking dicks in radio, like, and I don't mean that in terms of.
I love that about you. That's another reason I wanted to talk to you. The radio, man, it's
$20,000 until I was like 28 years old, like disgustingly low money. Like my nut is so low. That's what's so great about this whole thing is like, even out here, my nut is so low, and I am so like low level that like any splash is like a bonus. Do you know what I'm saying?
Great.
So,
yeah,
especially after COVID,
You know what that is too? I think that relates to our life as a sports fan. I think I've been hearing it my whole life and it pisses me off, but I also think it's true when people say like, well, when the Mets do win one, it's going to mean that much more to you because you got, oh, you good?
I got it. It's just the battery thing. Did it come back? Yeah, sorry about that.
Yep. Everybody's like, when the Mets do win one, it's going to mean so much more for you because, you haven't experienced it. And I think that kind of is the same thing here where it's like, when your expectations are tempered and you have a good sense of like, you're not like, what's the word for it? I guess you're just like grateful for everything.
You're spoiled if you're like these Patriots fans like Feidelberg over here, like they fucking had the last 20 years. You know what I mean? And like there's been people that have grown up and become adults within that 20 years that don't even know what it's like to lose. So once they do, they're going to not even be interested. And I'm even looking at it in the duality of my sports fandom and that the Buffalo Bills were shitty forever and now they're good. And it's like everything is cherries on top, icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, just one playoff game was amazing. But meanwhile, the Buffalo Sabres are dog shit,
The
absolute
worst.
trash,
Yeah.
the absolute like most garbage embarrassment of a franchise. And they were good my entire childhood and like into my college years. So I fucking hate them right now. Like it's so weird how like pissy I am about them. Whereas when the Bills suck, I go like, we got football on Sundays, baby. You know what I mean? Like I don't give a shit.
It's so true,
weird.
man. I mean, I felt that way with work when my initial goal was just to not have to work as a cube monkey, as an accountant. And I achieved that pretty quickly. And so I said to myself, everything else is icing on top. And I was wondering like when that was going to fade, when I was going to become like, well, that's not enough anymore. And I want all the money, or I want the fame, or I want this or that. And I still like pretty much wake up every day. And I do have a thought of like, well, at least I'm not like putting on my monkey suit and going into like the shit factory. Like that still really, really is in my mind. And, you know, yes, I have certain levels of money and success and opportunity that I want to achieve. But for the most part, I'm pretty fucking good as long as I don't have to go do that other life anymore.
Dude, that's what I mean. I kind of never did that other thing other than that 6 months I spent in that office that I was telling you about. But like at that point, it seemed like fun because I'd never done it. But like I told myself at an early age, like I said, like I saw my daddy work in restaurants and shit, and so did my mom. And I just was like, I'm never working in a fucking restaurant ever. And I started doing radio shit at like as a teenager. I'm like, this is going to be my life. Like I thought it was like you were a superstar. I thought they were like rock stars. So I wanted to be a DJ on the fucking radio. And I got to be one really quickly because I found out it's not that hard to do. And so I'm doing it all of a sudden and I go, oh my God, is this it? Like, do I make like $8 an hour, you know, for 20 hours a week just to do that? Like, is this it? Like this was my goal. And then I had to like figure out after that what to do. I'm like, thank God comedy like came up on my radar down the road. But you know, who knows?
But I also think that do you think that radio life kind of prepared you or like groomed you or whatever for the comedy? Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like
in many ways. Yeah. And even just like in terms of speaking on stage, like, you know, doing radio, you're in an empty room and you have to you're talking to a large audience prospectively if you're on an FM station or whatever, and you have to speak to them as if like they're just in their car. If you're like, what's up everybody, that like they're out of it, you know what I mean? Like you're just talking to one person in a car and you have to do that and like pretend it's that way. And now I've taken that to the stage and it's almost like you can do that with lock in with like an audience member. That way is like lame as that sounds.
No, I mean, it's funny. It's
first, kind of the same.
The first radio thing I had was I was working at Fandom at the school radio, but it's like a college station, but it's in New York, so it's like a big fucking deal.
Big one.
Yeah, you're covering the pro sports, and they have a lot of listeners. And the first thing I ever did was read a sports update, like on the 30s, on 10, 20, 30, you know. And it was just a one sheet where I wrote it out, like here are the scores and the updates, and I ran out of breath. And I stumbled through it and I totally botched it and everyone was laughing at me. And I remember, you know, a couple other experiences and then I ended up leaving radio, going to do finance. And when I came back around to doing podcasting and I had to do an ad read and it was a one sheet that you read for 60 seconds, I was like, all right, I've kind of already done this before. And all of a sudden, all these things that I thought I had either A, failed at, or B, never was going to use again, came back around in a fucking major way where I was like, oh, wait a second. It was like, I felt like Costanza with the Frogger, like, wait, I can do this because you know, somewhere deep in my brain, I think the world of radio is an interesting one where it's grimy. It's not glamorous. It's difficult. But it's still kind of like entertainment. And if you cut your teeth on doing any sort of radio, I think you can prepare for comedy, for podcasting, for anything though. I mean, I think it applies to everything in the world. It's a good learning place.
Well, I mean, and the era that I was doing it was literally like I just got through the sliding door as it closed and slammed behind me because like they started slashing jobs. I don't even know how like after me someone would learn. I mean, I learned doing overnight shifts. Like they make me do midnight to 6 a.m. I do overnight.
But they would
shifts.
Just give you the mic, you know, it's like, here you go.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was a fucking kid. And they were like, you're doing 12 to 6 a.m. I'm like, oh my God. You listen to my tapes too. It's like a lot of like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, why are you yelling? Like that kind of thing. Like I don't know if you had to do this in Fordham, but like we'd have to do air checks where the boss would just listen to and read me. You talk for 30 seconds and he'd pick apart. He'd spend an hour picking apart one break, every word, every pause you made. And you just have to like, you know, get used to living in silence a little bit and sitting in it. And you learn that in comedy helps with that too. So like once I started doing both at a pretty high level, one was definitely like waxing the other one. I was getting better at radio because of comedy, and I was getting better at comedy with radio. And you talk for 9 hours a day. It's the
10,000 hour shit. It's, you know, it's you're just getting your reps in. I mean, I remember, you know what is funny? I hear it a lot with podcasters here too. When new people start or they're on the radio for the first time, hosting for the first time, and they all kind of do a radio voice, or they do like, you know, what's up? We are back. We are in the studio here today on KFC radio. And it's like, have you ever spoken like that to any human? Ever? Why are you doing it now? But there's something about you get in front of a microphone, put on the headphones. Maybe you've heard it on the radio. Maybe you've seen it in pop culture, but you just do this thing all of a sudden. And it's like, why the what?
Oh, here we are. I mean, that used to be a way to do radio. I mean,
right. And I guess we grew up on that.
I mean, yeah. And then, I mean, some people would sit down and they'd be like, I've got a voice for this. And you'd be like, okay, I know this guy's going to turn it on. Like, they thought that was part of the job. A lot of them. Oh, I'm going to go inside with this I decided to do landscaping all of a sudden now.
Quick break here as Josh moves from outside in his rose garden into the house. He was getting too hot out there in the LA sun, you son of a bitch. So if you're out there this summer and you're feeling like you're going to be sweaty and a hot mess, you want to get shirts that perform well, keep you cool, are comfortable and moisture wicking while also being stylish and fashionable, Mizzen in Maine is the only place you're going to get that. That combination of good looks with good performance where you look your best, you got a nice collared shirt, a nice button up, but also it's that material that keeps you cool, stops you from sweating, it's non-absorbent, moisture wicking, and the quick dry. It's the best of both worlds for this hot summer. I mean, I'm over summer. I'm ready for the fucking fall. 190-degree day, and I was like, I can't live like this. I had to break out all my Mizzen in Maine to get ready for the 90-degree heat. So go to mizzenandmaine.com. That's MIZZEN and Maine.com. Use promo code Clancy. Get 15% off your first order. They've got the stretchy shirts, the moisture wicking, the quick dry, that soft material, all sorts of different designs, all sorts of different cuts and styles for the working man, the modern man, whether you're at the office or out at the bar, at play. Mizzen in Maine is the best to look your best and perform your best. MizzenandMaine.com. Promo code Clancy for 15% off your order. Let's get back to it with Potter.
Out in the rose garden, they're just taking care of it for you, and you know the commoners are out here, huh?
What can I hear you? Hold on.
You lost me.
Oh, that was muted. Sorry.
All good.
All right. All good now. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I do it to an extent. I think everybody still kind of has a voice, or when you start, you want to have some energy. But really, if you think about it, like every podcast should probably start where you just like talk, where you're just like, what's up, man? So I was looking at the newspaper today and blah, blah, blah. Like you should, you know, because that's what people want to hear. But I guess you have to have some levels of energy. Same thing on stage, right? You probably have to get the crowd going and shit. But really, at the end of the day, it really is a one-to-one.
In the lineup, just like it depends when people are listening too. I feel like you can have, this is the weirdest part about podcasting I found. You can have in your head the way a person listens to it, but everybody's listening to it differently. Whereas in radio, you were on at 6 a.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like people would get on there and think like, I got to wake everyone up. I would get on there at 6 a.m. and be like, I'm hungover, I'm dying. Like,
be quiet.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey everyone, you know, like that was my radio voice, like whispery, like the old FM jazz guys or some shit, you know?
Yeah.
But then you hear the guy down the hall fucking on the classic rock station be like, oh, all right.
Oh God, the worst, the fucking worst, man. And then, so like in the comedy world, everybody obviously has their own like style. I was just listening. I listened to Jeremiah's podcast with Anthony Jeselnik, and it was like the two most polar opposite styles you could possibly get, and yet still was like absolutely hilarious. But it was interesting. Jeremiah was asking him about Legion of Skanks and all that kind of shit. Jeselnik kind of being like a little bit soft about comedy was one of the more fucking insane things I've ever seen in my life. No, it's like, you, dude, are going to be talking about like what you can and can't say and shit. Like what?
He, you know, he's earned the right to be precious about I guess the respect he earned or deserves or whatever. I did hear that. I mean, it is, I mean, everybody, I mean, I have it too. Like, I'm just learning it now as I get a little more internet action these days. But like, you know, someone says something about you on a thing or whatever, it sticks in your craw. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, he knows Big J or whatever. I don't know their relationship or whatever. So maybe he felt like, why are you shitting on me or whatever? So I don't know. But you know, I don't know. It was an interesting thing that he chose to disclose, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he said he was like, he was like 6 months ago, I would have told you, yes, definitely friends with Big J. Now, like, not so sure. He said he shared the article that was talking about Legion of Skanks and being like, you know, bad for comedy and calling like Lewis and Jay like Nazis and stuff. And he was like, I am just a nerd of stand-up comedy. So when someone writes an interesting piece, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, I'm interested in it. And that's why I was sharing it. But it's also kind of like, I don't know, dude, why are you sharing an article that calls me a fucking Nazi?
Yeah, I mean, like, that article doesn't seem glowing about stand-up comedy, you know, and I maybe that's what you were saying. Like, I love it, so I share the good and the bad. I don't know. But like, all that fracas is kind of shit that I like. I mean, I'm saying some wild shit up there. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So I mean, people can come out and see it for themselves, and if they want to make a hullabaloo about it, then go for it. I had a soldier get mad at me about something because he was a soldier, even though it had nothing to do with soldiers. And you know, I just mentioned 9/11 somewhere in my act, and he got upset about that.
Can't even say the word sometimes. Can't even say the date.
And I said to him, I said, you know, like, well, you know, you going to Iraq really has nothing to do with my joke, and it didn't really have anything to do with 9/11 either. And that made him really upset.
Really? I was going to say, that probably didn't make the situation any better.
It got a laugh, but, you know.
Well, the thing for me, the moment I realized, like, I'm not playing this game of, like, apologize. It was early. It was way before any of this whole current atmosphere. Have you ever heard of Hutchinson's disease?
Yes.
Where, like, it just, like, the symptoms are that you're drunk, basically.
Yes.
Is how it was described. So I wrote a blog in like 2011 being like, sounds like a pretty fucking good disease to me. Like, would cut out I'd save a lot of money and save a lot of time. And I had someone who was like, I knew to be a really like diehard fan of the blog, a commenter, a reader, a supporter. All of a sudden they were like, yo, man, my aunt has Hutchinson's disease. Like, fuck you for saying that. And I was like, no. You've been down with 99% of the shit I said. You laughed at every other disease joke I made, every other thing when it didn't come at your expense. Now you want to play the game where it does, so we can't. I was like, nope, not doing it, man. And that, I think.
You know what's wild about what you do, dude, is you are open micing just in the open, like for everyone to see, and it's permanent.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. And think about that. You guys, you hate the open mic time. It's like the worst, hardest, most stressful thing. And that's just my life every day for the last.
That's my thing is like, maybe you can, I mean, it depends how you are in dealing with the immediate reaction of the silence, if you in fact get it, or the like hisses and boos and shit or whatever. If you touch on a subject someone doesn't like, it's like, can you handle that more or less than the comment section? Like, which one? Because to me, the comment section, to me, honestly, the way you're doing it seems way more scary than the way that I do it. Where
I see, and I think that's probably just where we come from different ends of the spectrum. Because I can sit and talk into the mic and have 200 million people listening and hating on me after the fact, but I don't have to deal with right now in the room. There are 5 people who don't like it, you know?
But the writing, I'm saying though, like just the blog after blog, like churning that out, like in the early sentence, when you were just trying to have like, that is literally what you described, that Hutchinson's disease thing. That would be like a joke. You do it.
A joke, yeah. What I should have done is probably be a joke writer. I probably should have wrote for someone who has the stage presence, to be honest.
Yeah, like that's a joke you would hear at an open mic, is my point. So like that, so like you were doing that at a young age, you know, when you like, nowadays you look at it, you go, I'm gonna get the Hutchinson. You'd have a more refined take on it too.
Right.
Like,
oh, absolutely.
You know, it sounds sick. I'm gonna get drunk all the time or whatever. So you know what I mean? Like that's how comedy is too. Like you figure out, like you get a little more. You figure out the like, all right, that's a lazy.
I guess Yeah, I think a lot of the blogging, because it was the immediacy and the we posted 12 blogs a day, so a lot of it probably was hacky jokes or the first iteration, the first knee jerk, and it was good enough for a blog, but would it be good enough to when someone pays money to come
Well,
see
that's
you
the
at
thing.
the club?
It's good enough
Probably
for an
not.
open mic, and then
An
you
open mic,
find out.
yeah, right.
And,
And I
that's
think
what you're doing as a blog, anyways, right? Like you're figuring out which ones get the most views and which ones don't.
yeah.
Like if yours doesn't, if you get like shitty views on it, then you flopped or whatever. That's a bomb,
Right.
Like
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I guess as much as I wish I could be a stand-up, I put it into writing. And, hopefully when this whole thing sells and money comes in from that, it's like, well, I didn't become the stand-up, but my jokes, rather being on stage, were on the internet. And that's where, it all kind of came to fruition. But it's cool to watch both of the worlds come together. And I mean, your Instagram presence is kind of where I first found you, along with like your mom's house and whatnot. And I've been seeing it for the past few weeks now. But the fucking goddamn Moat Story is, I stopped listening when other than what I've heard on Instagram, I stopped because I was like, I gotta have this conversation with him directly. It's gotta be, and I've been racking my brain trying to think of something as ridiculous and as embarrassing, and I don't know if I can come up with it. But you were doing a podcast. You went with Allie to where is this place that has a moat? What is set the scene exactly for me?
So it's up in the Hollywood Hills. The Hollywood Hills have all the old. It's like where they fucking think the houses in that fucking Quentin Tarantino movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like where where the celebrities are living. That's where this is, up in the hills. So they're like really nice houses, multi-million-dollar homes or whatever, but they're old or whatever. This one had a moat, and the way that it was set up was it was nighttime, first of all. So there was like an art deco, or not a stucco like wall with a gate. And so I walk, she like opens the gate for me. I follow her in and I walk to the side. And I think like it's very dark, by the way. I think like there's something in the way or whatever. I'm just trying to move to the side so that she could like go ahead and guide me, or maybe she'll turn on a light or something.
Yeah.
Turns out we're still
also
outside.
By the way, if people don't know, Josh is fucking basically blind. So if you're watching on YouTube, thick ass glasses, not 100%, but pretty much blind.
But I guess my independence fools some people because she had no idea. So she didn't really like warn me or anything. Right. And so again, I just stepped to the side after I entered, and I went right down into a moat. And this thing was like super deep and kind of narrow or whatever, but it was like not just like a kiddie pool. It was like,
you said you went like submerged over your head, right?
At least to my forehead.
That's almost worse. It's almost funnier to be just to the top and not all the way under.
Dude, it was like I hit the bottom and I pushed off and like jumped out almost. Like I leapt out in one fell swoop.
You did like a fucking I used to do that like as a kid, like pushes. You did like you breached like a whale, like pushing.
Yeah, dude. And then I was like the chicken Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like pulling myself out of it.
Yes.
And she was just shocked. She just stared at me. She was like, and I didn't know what to say. I mean,
like,
we just
what the fuck do I do? This my podcast guest just took a dive in the moat.
She's like, "Are you okay?" At first, she said,
and what do you like? Are you laughing at yourself? Are you like, oh my?
I just kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I can't believe I fell in your moat." Like I just kept saying, I can't believe that happened just now. I kept saying that over and over again. I'm like, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
And she was like,
it's her moat. It's her house.
No. She just shoots a podcast there. So
got it.
And like she even said like, because we never really like hung out before. She said this on her show. She was like, I didn't know if that was like your thing. Like, I didn't know if like you were doing a bit or something at first.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
imagine that.
She thought I was like a Evo or something, jumping into the moat.
Right. like a fucking Jackass skit or some shit. Like, I'm just gonna I mean, that would be some goddamn shtick if it was like, yeah, before we do the podcast, I'm just gonna jump in a fucking body of water. And then you just did the podcast, right? You were soaking wet and did the podcast.
Mean, that's the best time to do a podcast. Like, what am I gonna go home and then we do it again? We're just gonna talk about it. So I might as well. So I did it soaking wet. You can see in the video, I'm just like sitting there in soaking wet clothes.
Dude, and that to me is full circle, where it's like the bar is pretty low, the expectation, like not a diva, pretty humble, and it's like I can do a podcast soaking wet.
Yeah,
I can make fun of myself, and Yeah, it's nobody else's fault. My blind ass fell in the moat, so let's fucking talk about it. But that's like, you know, there's probably some people who would have been furious, probably blamed her, stormed off, wouldn't do it. And instead, to me, it's the best thing about this job. Literally, there's two things. One is not having to go to the 9 to 5, like I said. The other thing is when something horrendously bad happens to you in your life, I'm low key like, yes.
Yeah.
Like now my podcast for the week is done. I have a new bit. I have a new segment. Like, good.
Yeah. Like Tom was like, were you like mortified? Were you embarrassed? Like, how embarrassed were you? Did you just want to die? And I was like, you know, I don't really like, you know, Ali Makovsky, if I walked in there with like a fucking tuxedo on, what does she get? She's not going to, it's not like I'm trying to fuck her or something. You know what I mean? So it's
right.
But at the same time, I'd never met her before. So I was embarrassed just at the sheer, like, fucking idiot. Like,
listen, if anybody who falls in a moat and is not embarrassed is you know, you have a screw loose. Like you're a psychopath.
Right. Yeah, no, it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you know, like, how dare you not tell me about your, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm an idiot. I should have looked around better or something, or like waited, or I don't know. But like, we were laughing about the variable, like, how funny would it have been if I like cracked my skull on the side of the moat and like just was like
pouring out
down. Yeah, and she was just like, that's how we met each other.
Dude, if you died in that moat,
she would be fucked up for the rest of her career.
You know what you should have maybe done is if you had the foresight is held your breath and floated for a little while. She would have been flipping the fuck out.
Tom said it would have been funny if I just was like paralyzed from it and then I had to roll up at the Comedy Store, like, you know, like, and it'd be like, "What's up, Allie?
Remember me?
Yeah.
You killed me. You ruined my life.
I'm the reason I built the ramp."
I fucking love it, man. Last question: are you coming or what? Still not coming?
I got some fun. You know, I'm still medically not technically coming, I guess, but I'm having my good times. You know, I got ghosted in Omaha, which sucked, but.
Oh, I got to be honest. That might be more embarrassing than falling in a moat.
That was more embarrassing.
Like if you're in Omaha and you're not like beggars can't be choosers. You got to fuck Josh Potter. She's ghosting you. Well, Jesus Christ.
What I've learned from traveling our great United States, Kevin, is that there are wild gems in every place that you go. You know, if you paint with a wide brush, you're gonna miss out on some wonderful locales. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's some spice to life in every region of our great United States of America.
Amen, man. And let's keep the bar relatively low, and everywhere can be a destination, right, man?
Yeah, dude, I'm from Buffalo.
I mean, yeah, seriously, everywhere's like a step. You know, Buffalo gets a bad rap, though, right?
No, Buffalo. I mean, that's what I'm saying. But I think like that's the point. Like everywhere they're like, people are like, oh, thanks for coming to my shitty city. I'm like, I don't think your city's very shitty. Like,
right.
City's pretty cool. I mean, like, probably gets a shitty rap, and you're just playing into that because you think I'm from LA or something. But I mean, I think everywhere's pretty cool. We don't live in fucking like Iraq or some shit.
No,
so,
I know.
They're
all the bars. Yeah, they're all relatively speaking. I think it's so bizarre that the people, and maybe it's just because from New York, for me, New York, when I think of New York, I think of expensive, crowded, homeless, dirty, like all that shit. Some people think of, you know, the concrete jungle where dreams are made of. I just kind of skew the opposite way.
Spirit of New York.
Yeah, right. And that's, and like, to me, having pride in a geographic location or like talking shit, it's like, this is literally just a spot that you are existing in. What is the fucking, you know, the people from Chicago who like suck Chicago's dick all day long. Like, it's the greatest city in America. I'm like, okay, I don't know. There's some buildings, there's some places, some good food, some bad food, some hot people, some ugly people. There's some money, there's some poor. Like, it's literally just a spot that you probably most likely were born in and didn't even pick. So what the fuck are you? Who cares?
Got stuck in too.
Yeah. That's, to me, it's the lowest hanging fruit, lowest common denominator, whatever you want to call it, of like, you know, comparing. It's like, okay, it's a place, man. It's a fucking place.
I'm not going to get up in arms about people having pride about it, but like the people that demean other cities, it's like, have you spent any meaningful amount of time there? Or are you just talking shit based off like television?
It's Cleveland, it's Buffalo, it's, you know, it's like, yeah, man, whatever. All right, dude. So you're out on your own now. After a good run at your mom's house. So everything is all Josh Potter. You can find it on YouTube. on Apple. What's the Instagram handle? Josh J Potter.
At Josh_Potter.
Josh_Potter. So give him a follow. I mean, I can't give a better cosign than what I described earlier. Just a normal ass dude, man. Like if you lived here, I feel like, you know, you could work here. We would have been buddies. We could have been roommates. We would just, you fit, you know, it's a good fit. So anybody who's down with me or Barstool, you'll like Josh as well. So, and as much as I
already treat you guys like you're my friends. I put up the fucking electric chairs when there's games on.
I know you do. That's what I was going to say is like the amount of support Josh has given us, as much as I'm always yelling at you guys to go subscribe to our channels. This time I want you to go subscribe to Potter because dude deserves it just probably more than anybody I know out there grinding. So
thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. And stay normal, brother. Stay normal.
Oh, there's no chance of that changing. I'm 35 already, so it's over.
It's over. I am what I am, man.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.